The Last of Us has finally hit a high point. Thousands of infected are storming the human settlements, and the survivors have no choice but to fight these bloodthirsty monsters to the death. And as for Joel, the main character, his fate is finally revealed in this episode. Let's jump right into it. Ellie gets woken up by squad leader Jesse. It's her turn to go on patrol today. As she steps outside, she notices the whole town is acting strangely serious and quiet. Jesse explains, just yesterday, the patrol team found a pile of frozen corpses in the mountains. Right after that, 30 infected crawled out from under the snow. Apparently, they figured out how to survive the cold by burying themselves in it. Who knows how many more are still lying in wait under that thick snow. Meanwhile, in the town's meeting hall, Tommy, the one in charge, is stressing how serious the situation is. They need to be ready for an all-out assault from the infected at any time. Once the alarm goes off, the elderly, the sick, and the children are to head straight into the basements or storm shelters. Everyone else, especially the able-bodied men, should grab their weapons and hold positions on rooftops or second floors, ready to defend. Ellie thinks Tommy might be overreacting a bit, but when it comes to people's lives, it's always better to be safe than sorry. To tighten up security, Tommy assigns an extra patrol squad, and that's when Ellie finds out Joel already headed out earlier. Originally, the two of them were supposed to be partners on this patrol, but to let Ellie sleep in a little longer, Joel decided to team up with Dina instead. Hearing that hits Ellie right in the feels. Even though things between her and Joel have been pretty rocky lately, the guy is still the same as ever, always looking out for her, whether she knows it or not. Ellie and Jesse wander aimlessly through the snowy wilderness, unaware that up on a nearby ridge, someone is watching them. That someone is Abby, one of the remaining members of the Fireflies. She and her crew have traveled all the way to Jackson with one goal in mind: finding Joel and getting revenge. The night before, they'd spotted lights in the distance and thought it was just a small camp. But now that it's daylight, they realize this place is no small outpost. It's basically a fortified town. Charging in with just a handful of people and trying to take out Joel? Yeah, that's a death wish. Abby, driven by her thirst for revenge, is starting to lose her patience. She even suggests a bold idea: ambushing the patrol team. The bearded guy in her group, thankfully, still has a shred of common sense. He insists they need to think this through, not rush in blindly. So he sends Abby out to stand watch, hoping the freezing wind might help her cool off, both literally and mentally. But what no one expected was that even in this kind of heavy snowstorm, the town would still send people out on patrol. That gives Abby a new idea. If she can capture those two patrolling strangers, maybe, just maybe, she can force them to give up Joel's location. But as she tries to sneak down the hillside, her foot slips, and she goes tumbling down, fast and hard. When Abby finally lifts her head, dazed and bruised, she sees an arm lying in the snow. That's when she realizes she's landed in a shallow ditch full of bodies, dozens of them. And some of them aren't completely still. Abby's gut twists. Something feels very wrong. She watches in horror as a few of the frozen infected begin to twitch and move. Without thinking, she spins around and takes off running. Behind her, pit erupts. Swarms of infected start clawing their way out of the snow. Abby's feet are flying. She knows if she slows down even a little, she could be torn apart in seconds. Luckily, just up ahead, she spots an abandoned mining facility. Without hesitation, she races to the perimeter fence and scrambles up a ladder, hauling herself over the top. But she's barely caught her breath when the infected horde flanks her from the side. With a deafening crash, they slam into the wire fence, completely demolishing it. Abby drops flat, crawling frantically through the snow. Just then, one of the infected slips through and dives at her, pinning her down hard. At the last second, a single gunshot blasts through the air, dropping the creature instantly. To her shock, the one who fired is Joel. He helps her up and the two bolt for the nearby warehouse. But before she can even process what just happened, she hears a voice call out, "Joel, it's Dina." And in that moment, Abby freezes. Her heart pounds. She never expected it. The man she's been hunting for so long is right here. But this isn't the time for revenge. The infected are seconds away from bursting through that door. Abby quickly suggests a cabin in the hills. It's higher ground, and her group is waiting there. Joel doesn't ask questions. Before the infected breach the warehouse, they're already on the move again. Behind them, the noise of the horde keeps growing, more and more of them joining the chase. Abby yells, urging them to climb faster. But then, another nightmare unfolds. From the other side of the hill, another massive swarm comes crashing down. The two infected waves collide, forming one giant stampede. And just like that, they stop chasing Joel and the others. Now, their sights are set on one target only: Jackson. By now, the blizzard is getting worse. Tommy stands atop the town's watchtower, staring anxiously into the distance. He tells his men to send word to all patrol squads. They need to return as soon as possible. In weather like this, anything could go wrong. Ellie gets the message, but they're already too far out. For now, the only thing they can do is hunker down somewhere and wait out the cold. They find what looks like an abandoned town. Jesse, who's somewhat familiar with the area, leads Ellie to an old convenience store. It's filled with dried-out plants. Not ideal, but enough to start a small fire and keep warm for now. Back in Jackson, Tommy receives some unsettling news. Joel and Dina's patrol has gone silent. Most likely, they've moved out of signal range. When he hears they were headed toward the abandoned mining facility, Tommy wastes no time. He radios Ellie and Jesse. They're the closest. He urges them to check on Joel right away. Meanwhile, inside the town, residents are scrambling to finish emergency defenses. In the rush, an old man accidentally splits open a pipe, and what he finds inside sends a chill deeper than the snow ever could. Massive clusters of cordyceps fungus, still thriving in the dark. Turns out, they were never really gone. Out on watch duty, one of the town's militiamen suddenly feels something's off. He raises his binoculars, and what he sees nearly makes his heart stop. A massive wave of infected, storming toward them like a living avalanche. Panic hits. The militiaman shouts at the top of his lungs. Then, the town's alarm bell starts to ring. Tommy instantly realizes the crisis is here. He quickly starts guiding residents to follow the emergency plan. The elderly, women, and children retreat into their basements, bolting the doors tight. Meanwhile, the militia scrambles into position, falling into their battle formations. With everything in place, Tommy rushes up to the watchtower. Looking out over the massive swarm of infected approaching the town, he lets out a furious roar, rallying his people to prepare for a fight to the death. But no one opens fire just yet. Instead, they wait, letting the infected get closer. Then, one by one, the townsfolk roll barrels of oil out past the gates. Tommy takes the first shot, and with a bang, fuel splashes across the ground. As the horde grows thicker, the townspeople raise their torches and hurl them into the mass. Explosions erupt through the ranks of the infected. And finally, the militia unleashes everything they've got. With a wall of fire now separating them from the swarm, the pressure on the defenders drops dramatically. Meanwhile, Joel spots the fire from outside town. He's ready to turn back and help. But Abby stops him, pointing out that the cabin isn't far. If they can regroup with her team, they'll be able to join the fight too. Joel hesitates for a moment, weighing the options, then makes the call. They head for the cabin. Back in the town, the militia is still fighting tooth and nail to keep the infected at bay. But Tommy quickly senses something's wrong. The infected are suddenly changing direction, heading straight for a weaker, less defended part of the perimeter. And to make matters worse, there's something massive moving within the horde. A bloater, the final, most terrifying stage of infection. With each thunderous charge, the creature slams against the wooden barricades. And sure enough, the structure gives. A breach opens up, and infected start pouring in. Tommy curses under his breath. He grabs a flamethrower and shouts to the rooftop defenders to get ready, then positions himself right in the path of the incoming swarm. But the infected are smarter than anyone expected. They split off, swarming into nearby buildings. Some even climb onto rooftops, looking to attack from above. Suddenly, Tommy spots the bloater charging toward one of the houses. His heart drops. That's where his wife is. With a roar of desperation, Tommy opens fire, drawing the beast's attention. It works. The bloater turns. Tommy tries to lure it away using the narrow alleys. But at the end of the path, he finds a dead end blocked with debris. He's out of options. Backed into a corner, he takes his stance and unleashes a blast of fire straight at the bloater. But the monster doesn't go down. It stumbles, burns, but keeps coming. Tommy kept firing as he backed away, step by step. But before he realized it, his flamethrower was running dry. A wave of helplessness washed over him. He simply slumped to the ground, bracing himself for the end. But then, the bloater suddenly collapsed, its massive frame slamming into the ground with a thud. Elsewhere in town, the chaos continued. Residents were locked in a brutal, bloody struggle with the infected. That's when Tommy's wife burst into the storage shed and flung open row after row of dog cages. These dogs weren't just pets. They were one of the town's last lines of defense. Without the walls to hold them back, their instincts kicked in. Fangs bared, they tore into the infected with ruthless precision. And just like that, the tide turned. The infected, now under siege, started to fall back, dragged into the cold grip of death. Meanwhile, Joel and the others had finally reached the cabin in the hills. Abby's group rushed out to meet them, ushering them quickly inside. But Joel couldn't stop thinking about the town. He told everyone to grab their weapons. They needed to move fast and help the others. What he didn't see was the look on Abby's face hardening. She glanced around at her people, then said coldly, "This man is Joel." In an instant, the entire group raised their guns. And just like that, Joel was surrounded. Even Dina was grabbed and tied down before she could react. Joel was completely stunned, his mind racing. Abby and her group didn't seem like ordinary raiders. They moved like seasoned warriors. It wasn't until Abby uttered the words, "the Fireflies," that the realization hit him like a ton of bricks. He wasn't just facing any group. He was facing his enemies. Abby ordered someone to inject Dina with a tranquilizer. Clearly, she still had some boundaries. Even though she was hunting for revenge, innocent bystanders wouldn't be harmed. But Joel, he was about to face his reckoning. Years ago, when Joel had killed a doctor without a second thought, that doctor turned out to be Abby's father. Every night since, Abby had been haunted by nightmares of that moment, of walking into the Fireflies' headquarters, only to find her father's brutalized body. A part of her regretted it deeply. If she could turn back time, she would have never stepped foot into that infirmary. But now, the man responsible for her father's death was standing right in front of her. And surprisingly, she felt an eerie calm. She had promised her father, standing over his grave, that Joel would die slowly and painfully. With a deliberate motion, Abby pulled out a golf club and swung it down hard at Joel. The sickening crack of the blow echoed through the storm. As Ellie continued searching for Joel, something felt off. Following the tracks, she came upon the small cabin and spotted the horses tied outside. Gun in hand, Ellie cautiously crept inside. From the back room, faint screams echoed. She pushed the door open and found Joel's lifeless body. But before she could react, several burly men restrained her. By now, Joel had been beaten to a pulp by Abby. Even the golf club was snapped in two. Ellie screamed at him to get up, but Joel lay motionless on the floor. When Abby grabbed the broken club again, Ellie's heart sank as she realized what was about to happen. Screaming "no" over and over, she could do nothing but watch as the club was driven into Joel's neck. Abby shouted in fury, "I'm going to kill all of you." But her words were met with nothing but a brutal beating. When Abby and her group finally left, Ellie rushed to Joel's side. But the man who had always protected her, the one she had always counted on, was gone. No breath, no pulse. Meanwhile, back in Jackson, the townsfolk had finally wiped out the last of the infected, but not without paying a heavy price. Ellie, along with Dean,